Hi guys, I'm happy to be back doing this so-called blog. I don't even know what it is anymore. And by the way, join me and clicking in and joining the my so-called conversations with you. Before I begin, first I want to address two questions that were asked recently. One is from Betty B, and she says, does minoxidil do anything to your brain or cause health problems once it's absorbed into your system? Well, minoxidil is the only ingredient approved by the FDA to help hair growth. You cannot use the word hair growth in any product unless it contains minoxidil as viewed by the FDA and approved by the FDA. That being said, I do have an energizing serum that does not contain minoxidil that is extremely successful. It's what I use, and for many years, many individuals are using to help promote thicker, healthier hair growth. It does not contain minoxidil. I do have another product called the Hair Booster, which I sell on QVC, which contains minoxidil. But as far as I know, to this day, there is no evidence or studies that have come out in question of minoxidil. You can do some research on Google. It'll give you what opinions are out there regarding this particular ingredient. But it is approved by the FDA, the only ingredient approved by the FDA to make the claim it grows hair. Danielle Elaine also asked me about Supreme Radiance. It has an incredible fan base, Danielle, like you. It's a complexion booster. It has a light coloring, natural light coloring to what I consider even out the skin tone. It has retinol and other anti-aging ingredients inside. You can use it as a foundation base or with a little hint of color, or just if you don't want to wear foundation whatsoever, apply the Supreme Radiance. Especially if you're going to the gym and you don't feel like wearing makeup, apply the Supreme Radiance as a foundation base. It evens out the skin tone. It has all these benefits, and it's just so unique and special. And we are bringing it back to great demand from a great following. We dropped the ball on not producing it as often as we should, and now we are going to have a change of mind in that the demand is much greater than we thought it was. So we're enthusiastically telling you, yes, it's coming back. Yesterday I had a very interesting experience. I had a phone call from a major internet fashion website, one of the biggest in the world. It's called Refinery 29. They have done a number of articles on me, and yet last night I got an email asking me to participate in a conference phone call with them. And early in the morning, this morning, I got to speak with them, and they want to bring me to New York City. I live in Los Angeles. They want to bring me to New York City to tape me. They're going to film me. They're doing a sort of documentary on fashion during the different decades, 60s, 70s, 80s. And they wanted me in particular to comment on the 60s and 70s, especially the 60s. They don't have enough people that they've been looking at that have the knowledge, the experience that I've had living at that time. And that's when I started my career. That's when I started evolving in the beauty industry, learning from masters like Vidal Sassoon, Paul Mitchell, Kenneth Patel, makeup with Wade Bendy and Pablo of Elizabeth Arden's. These are the people that trained me, that taught me, that became my instructors, masters, showing me the way to be the best I could be in the beauty industry. And I developed this incredible, I'm so blessed to have this career, and so much is due to their input and working with me. But here's what happens now, getting back to Refinery 29, and they said, Peter, let's start with the 60s. Can you fill me in a little bit before we bring you to New York and start filming. And this is going to happen in about 3 weeks, where I will be going to New York to start doing the taping for this documentary on beauty. And they said to me, we want to talk about makeup in the 60s, but there's so much going on when it came to the beauty industry in the 60s, whether it was hair, makeup, fashion, and share with us a little bit of your experience and your background in evolving in this particular magical decade. And I told them that to me the 60s were as exciting as the 20s when it came to fashion, when it came to image, when it came to being independent and being able to choose what you wanted to wear, what you wanted to look like, unlike any other time in history. The 20s were, I call it the flapper era, where the dresses came a lot shorter above the knee, where hair became a lot shorter for women. You could wear a boyish cut or a bob. The bob became very popular. It's called a page boy also. And music became very interesting, the jazz age of the 20s. And that also occurred with the 60s. The revolution from England that started in England, especially in London, with music, with clothing, with makeup, came across the Atlantic and hit New York City like an atomic bomb. I remember that's where it started in the United States, primarily in New York City. And you started hearing groups like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, I can go on. And it was called the British Invasion because of the talent that was coming to the United States with music, with fashion designers, with cosmetics, with haircuts like the Vidal Sassoon look of precision hair cutting. Up to then, there was no rhyme or reason for cutting hair. You just cut the hair to create a flip. At the early part of the 60s, they were wearing a lot of teasing to the hair. Big hairdos with flips and lacquered, sprayed on heavily, so that you got the severe look that I find today so antiquated. Also, makeup started becoming more obvious in that when Elizabeth Taylor in 1963 did Cleopatra, every woman on earth around the globe wanted to imitate her eye makeup, that Egyptian-looking eye makeup that she made so famous. And obviously she's a brunette, so everybody was dyeing their hair jet black and wearing severe eye makeup, where it became more than smoky look. It became extremely, it became extremely exotic and sophisticated in the way and how dramatic it was, using liquid eyeliners, false eyelashes. Everything started taking shape into a more exaggerated look. Then around 1963, Mary Kwan came in with a look that was called the miniskirt, and makeup that was very severe around the eyes. Eye was pronounced more than any part of the face in applying makeup, with again lashes and heavy eyeliner and eyebrows that were very heavy and set beautifully and designed explicitly to over exaggerate the brows. The look was extravagant. Hair became looser, less controlled. Vidal Sassoon's precision hair cutting allowed the woman, and the man for that matter, to feel free and independent. You could put your hands through your hair and it fell into place. You didn't have to tease your hair. You didn't have to use rollers. A hairbrush with a blower. Hair became more independent. It was carefree. You rub your hands through your hair, spreading it through, and your hair would fall into place according to the cut that was provided to you with that new precision hair cutting from Vidal Sassoon. It had a lot of freedom and independence. You could wear it casually, you could wear it in a more stylish look using gels, and the whole revolution in hair was coming into play, due mainly to the contribution of Vidal Sassoon, Paul Mitchell's names that created that freedom of independence when it came to looking fantastic with casual hairdos, easy to maintain, and the clothing followed suit when Mary Kwan came into the picture from London, England, a fashion designer that created the miniskirt. And it was quite attractive and daring because it was quite high. It became a call to freedom for women to be more relaxed, more confident of their look, daring to be who they wanted to be with no restrictions. Makeup again was more focused around the eyes. Hair was loose and casual, precision cutting, but to the point that it was extremely easy to maintain. The clothing was very colorful, and gradually from the 63 to 66, you saw this movement taking shape. And from that came the flower children, where you started seeing more colorful dresses, looser, more hugging the body, but in a very easy flowing way. Men starting to grow their hair for the first time. Up to then, I can't remember a time in history, unless I go way back to the Renaissance, where men's hair was longer than ever before, way past the shoulders, carefree. The women's hair was also maintaining themselves in a very casual way, not overdoing the blow drying or the setting. They let their hair take shape according to how it grew in. They grew their hair long. They wore a lot of flowers through their hair. That's why they call it flower children. And when it came to African American hair, it was outrageous. The afro until the 60s basically didn't exist. It wasn't popular, but during the 60s, the afro came into a time of its own, where it wasn't just becoming natural, but it grew, it was exaggerated, and they were wearing over-the-top afros. So that is a period in time that was so, I call it the experimental age of the 60s, where people could do whatever they wanted to do according to their artistic and personal desire to look and express themselves the way they wanted to. It wasn't dictated by the fashion magazines. It wasn't dictated by anyone except the culture that was coming in, the youthful culture of England that invaded America, and we were able to express ourselves so differently from the 50s, which everything was reserved and contrived. So the 50s were more about controlling you, and the 60s we were more about being free and independent to do what we wanted to do. And that's what I am going to be contributing to Refinery 29's documentary.